I understand that you came to see me here in Washington, and back in time, too, because you heard that I was a bit of a storyteller, and you were hoping to hear a few of my stories and jokes. Among my stories, which are told mostly to entertain, were those which involved self-deprecating humor, laughing at myself. You likely know that I was not considered to be a particularly handsome man in my day. Rather than ignoring this fact, or bemoaning it, I sometimes used it to humorous ends. Once, when I was accused of being two-faced, for example, I responded as follows. If I had another face, do you think I would wear this one out in public? I was traveling by stagecoach with Stephen Douglas and Owen Lovejoy on our way to attend court at Bloomington. You probably know that Douglas was rather short, only 5 foot 4 inches tall. This was due mostly to his very short legs. Lovejoy, on the other hand, had a short body, but rather long legs proportionally. And then there's me, of course, with my long body and very long legs. Well, Douglas and Lovejoy got to arguing a bit about how long a man's legs ought to be in proportion to his body. Not able to come to an agreement, they asked me, Lincoln, how long should a man's legs be? I thought for a moment, replied, I have never given the matter much consideration, but at first blush I should judge they ought to be just long enough to reach from his body to the ground. Though I sometimes told stories and jokes simply to entertain, just as often I did so for other reasons, well, such as to illustrate a point, to relieve tension or lighten the mood, to communicate a hard-to-accept lesson or rebuke in a more indirect, softer manner, or simply to distract from the difficulties and hard realities of life, especially in the midst of our terrible Civil War. I had been hired to defend a man who had been provoked by another, first by vile words and then through bodily attack. My client defended himself the best he could. Did a pretty good job of it. Thrashed the other fellow. So the other fellow brought suit, assault and battery. Our plea, of course, was going to be self-defense, or the other fellow just got what was coming to him. I determined, however, that the jury would better understand our plea if I explained it with a story. Gentlemen of the jury, my client was in the fix of a man walking along a country road with a pitchfork upon his shoulder when he was attacked by a fierce dog that ran out to him from a farmer's dooryard. Having nothing else with which to defend himself, the man tried to parry off the dog with the pitchfork, but its prongs struck into the brute and killed him. Just then the farmer came running out. What made you kill my dog? What made him try to bite me? But why did you not go at him with the other end of the pitchfork? And why did he not come after me with his other end? At this I whirled about my arms an imaginary dog, pushed his tail end toward the jury. I believe even the dullest mind of that jury grasped my point that day, and if I recall correctly, my client was acquitted. By the way, I adapted this story from one which I had read in Joe Miller's Jests, a popular English joke book of my day, which I kept at my desk right here, even when I was president. We had sent John Fremont out to Missouri as a Union general. Fremont had strong abolitionist tendencies, however, and he unilaterally decided to declare that the slaves of all rebels in Missouri were free. Now, if I had let this stand, Missouri would have joined the Confederacy the very next day and taken with her the other 3 border states, and half the Union soldiers would have turned around and walked home. They weren't going to fight to free the slaves, not at the beginning of the war. Now, we need to wait a little bit on that. I had to overrule Fremont, and I decided also that I needed to relieve him from that command. I desired to place him in a new one better suited to his particular temperament and political convictions, yet I was having trouble finding a command to offer him. It reminded me of the old man who had an unmarried son getting up in years, and the father says to the son, Now, son, it's about time for you to take a wife. All right, father, whose wife shall I take? That was my dilemma with Fremont, you see. If I gave him another command, this would mean taking it away from some other worthy general. a gentleman called on me at the White House in the midst of the war and requested a pass to go to Richmond, which was of course still in Confederate hands. I should be very happy to oblige you, I said, if my passes were respected. But the fact is I have, within the past 2 years, given passes to 250,000 men to go to Richmond, and not one's got there yet. The Union Army. Speaking of callers to my office, you may know that I was very generous with my time, meeting with the many office seekers and others who wished to have an audience with me. Some of the gentlemen desiring foreign posts gave rather interesting, even ludicrous reasons to support the request. One delegation desired me to appoint their man as our envoy to the Sandwich Islands. I believe that you call them Hawaii today, because he was in bad health, and a residence in that balmy climate would be of great benefit to him. Gentlemen, I said, I'm sorry to say that there are already 8 other applicants for that place, and they are all sicker than your man. Of course, a good many of these office seekers and other supplicants went away disappointed, for I could not possibly grant all of their requests. Some did, however, hear a little story or joke. But then came the time right after my address at Gettysburg, when I came down with the smallpox, a highly contagious and dangerous disease. This got reported in the newspapers and was told in the streets, and just like that, the people stopped calling on me. As I commented at the time, I finally find myself in a position to give everybody something, and now nobody visits me anymore.